What up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Pearl Daily. I am your host, Pearl, and today we are going to be talking about modern women that wish they had children sooner. But before we get into today's topic, guys, please make sure you go to theaudacitynetwork.com. That's theaudacitynetwork.com. We have a great community over there, and I do give you guys unlimited super chats. You help me get YouTube free on the website. You get access to all of my old content I had to pull off of YouTube because they are communists. Unless someone from YouTube is watching this, then thank you for remonetizing me. And you also, if we get enough people on the website, we could do in-person events. And I give you the tips and tricks of how to be a YouTuber. I can save you guys 3 years of work, or if you want to be off camera, I could teach you how to sell editors overseas, so and keep the margin for yourself. So anyways, guys, please like the video. Now let's get into today's topic. So I can't talk enough about the modern women life cycle we have established here on Pearl Daily, and I think it's fairly accurate. I've sent it to other creators that I know, and they verified its validity. Now, I can't recap the whole thing here, but go back to my previous episodes of Pearl Daily to hear the whole thing. Today, we're going to be talking about points 4 and 5 of the modern woman life cycle. With 4 being that modern women will wake up between the ages of 33 to 37, rush to have a kid, find a husband, or both. And number 5 being modern women will hit their late 30s and early 40s and try to get pregnant either by a loser or by IVF. Modern women will rush to have kids, and some of them will get what they want. They'll find a man who is irresponsible enough to have a kid by or become a single mother and get inseminated by IVF to be a single mother by choice. But when this happens, they end up being older mothers. Now, many of these women find more fulfillment in parenting than they ever would have found in their careers or schools. That's when regret starts creeping in. There is a growing group of women that admit they wish they had kids sooner. They admit that raising a child when they're older has a whole nother set of problems that they did not anticipate. That's what we're going to talk about today. Modern women wishing they had kids sooner. So, okay, here's an article from BuzzFeed. I don't regret having my son, but I regret what I've given to him by having him later in life. Women who waited until an older age to have kids are sharing their stories. Nowadays, there are a multitude of reasons why women are choosing to get married or have children at an older age. In 2019, only 51% of 30-year-olds in the United States had been married, compared to in 1962, when 90% of 30-year-olds had been married at least once. In a previous post, dozens of people from the BuzzFeed community shared their reasoning. Next, I wanted to dive deeper into the kids part. So I asked people who did wait to become parents at a later age if they're happy with their decision, or if there was anything they wish they did differently had their circumstances been different. Before sharing their stories, it's worth reiterating that there's no right or wrong timeline to choose to have kids or not have kids, because everyone is so different. Because it is important to openly talk about this topic because it's nuanced and full of varying and valid perspectives. You can find several of these perspectives below. So one woman says, my husband and I have been married for almost 10 years with little birth control beside the pull-out method. It's a great method. Okay, I was fine with waiting to have kids first when I was 30 and he was 35. We started wanting to have kids since we'd already traveled quite a bit and bought a home. After 2 years of infertility and 1 miscarriage, we went through IVF, and I had my first daughter at 32 and second daughter at 34. I love them both to pieces. He comes from a large family with lots of siblings. We are both from a culture that values large families. I would have loved to have more kids, but I'm just too tired. Having a kid in your 20s versus your 30s isn't the same. You have so much less energy, or at least that's the case for me. We're done having kids. He had a vasectomy, which was his wish, and I'm kind of sad that I'm never going to go through pregnancy, labor, and have another addition to the family. We do have one leftover embryo that I keep in the back of my mind just in case. Translation. I'm going to find someone else to make me kid number 2. Watch out, husband. Okay. No regrets here, at least not for any of the common reasons mentioned. My regret is that my children's grandparents are older too, and that my children will lose them at a younger age than I lost mine. The life, the care, and the wisdom grandparents share is invaluable. Number 3, I waited until I found the right partner. We met at 35 and married at 37. And instantly began trying to expand our families. We've gone through multiple miscarriages, failed IVF cycles, and a failed donor egg cycle. I wish I would have been more educated about my body and known how hard it is for a woman of advanced maternal age to try to conceive. Not one OBGYN spoke to me about freezing my eggs. Not one OBGYN ever spoke to me about my eggs and how age affects them. While I was aware that egg quality declines as you age, I was not prepared for the reality that I've now gone through. I never thought to ask questions when I was younger while actively avoiding getting pregnant. It makes me sad that I was never taught about my own body. Okay, she was 37. Damn. Okay, I had my first child 1 year ago and I'm very happy. I have no problems getting pregnant after 20 years of birth control. It was an easy pregnancy. I have a loving husband who splits child care responsibilities, 2 sets of retired grandparents who live close by, and allow my husband and I to have a weekly date night. We can afford a nanny, which makes life so much easier. I'm so glad I waited. So she was anonymous and she's 40. So yeah, again, this is all a roll of the dice, right? The same way when men get married, it's a roll of the dice. Fertility, it's a roll of the dice. Like 10% of us have, I think it's called endometriosis. Cooked, done, nasky, nada. Really, it's not the worst idea to be tested for that at a young age. You know what I mean? Just to make sure. I didn't end up getting married until 34. Then I got right to work having kids ASAP. I had 3 kids when I was 36, 38, and 40, respectively. If I had to do it over again, I would definitely have kids at a younger age. I am now 54 and do not nearly have the same energy I would have if I were younger. I'm also scared of having a major health problem before I can get my kids out of the house and through college. Also, in terms of helping for college, I'll only have a few years left to work before I retire, all while having to help my kids through college. So it's not the best timing. I think ahead to grandchildren as well. Will I have the energy and health to be a good grandma? Will I be able to help my kids out if they need? A lot of unknowns. Kelly, 43. Number 6, Doug, MPA on the website says, Pearl Reed, women want the wedding and not the marriage. Modern women want the pregnancy and the birth, but they don't want to be married. It's sad. I don't even really think they want the kid. Like, I don't think they really want the kid. They just want, what they want is the pregnancy, the clout of being a mom. That's really important. But being a mom, I don't think they really like that much. Okay, that's not their favorite thing. Okay. I loved having the freedom without kids when I was in my 20s and 30s. I could focus on myself. Now that I'm older, I have the money, the patience, and the time to give my kids a better version of me more than 20 years ago. No regrets. Next, I waited until my career and finances were stable, which took me until the age of 34. Unfortunately, I started developing an eating disorder in my early 30s, which may have significantly inhibited my ability to conceive. My spouse and I are actively trying to get pregnant, but I'm terrified that we completely missed our window. Yeah, you did. Cooked. I mean, that's cooked. I mean, I keep saying this on the show because we're cooked. Like, I do think, like, I don't think the world's going to end. I think, like, society will be fine relatively for my whole lifetime. But in terms of, like, the nuclear family, one mom, one dad, and kids, cooked. I mean, that's cooked. C-O-O-K, cook, E-D, cooked. Done, nice, nasky, not. Do you know what's funny? I was having a conversation with someone and they were calling me, he was calling me black pilled, right? And I'm like, and this is a guy that was divorced, right? So he's once divorced. He has a second wife. And I'm talking to him and he's like, how can you have this outlook? Do you not think that, like, you and your boyfriend could have because that's what everyone wants to bring up. They're like, you don't think you guys could have a good relationship? Like, you think marriage is dead? And I'm like, you're divorced. Like, how are you? I haven't even given it a go yet. But I'm like, you can't predict the future. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you thought you were going to be married forever. I'm sure I thought that I was going to be with a previous boyfriend forever, right? We all think things, right? But you can't, there's people that think they're going to be at their job forever. They get fired. You can't really control the universe, and you certainly can't control another person. So you cannot control if he is going to leave you or she is, right? So cooked. Pearl Ramsey, cooked. You're right. That's true. Yeah. All right, 9. I had my first child with my first husband. I convinced myself and him that we were loved our lives and wanted to be child free. But really, I didn't want kids with him. Oh. Oh. Can you imagine your wife writing this about you? That they mean it though. If a woman's putting off having kids with you, I got bad news for you. But well, it doesn't have to be bad news, right? So this is how you got to be, right? If we take her ego out of this, because that is pretty ego killing, right? To know it's you she doesn't want to have kids with. She deems you not worthy of reproducing, right? But here's the upside, okay? Here's like the upside in that. You don't need to pull out because she's going to abort. I'm trying to, or she'll make sure she's on birth control or whatever. I'm trying the silver lining. Like, the sad thing is you got about 7 years with your wife before she leaves you. The upside is you fellas can always do better, younger and hotter. So if you like what you got going, just remember you can always get better. So, it's not really black pilled. It's actually pretty, I would say happy. It's pretty happy for the men. And the women, it's kind of happy too. I mean, we love being side chicks, so we can go do that forever. We love being whores. Now we get to be our true nature. So I see this as a win-win. Sorry, fellas. Okay, when I met my second husband, I knew I wanted to have children with him, and he felt the same way about me. I got pregnant with our first a month after our wedding. We had our second right after I turned 38 in our neighborhood in Texas. I'm one of the oldest moms with young kids, but it couldn't have worked out any other way. Yeah, that girl has no regrets. I was set on not having a kid because I didn't want the baby to have an alcoholic father, yet I chose my husband over a child for 14 years. I do not regret making this choice and waiting to see if he would get sober, because he eventually did after 12 years together on his own. And now we are expecting our first and only in my late 30s. I believe is a much better choice to have a child at a time when they can be raised better. Okay, this is like the only logical reason. Like, this is kind of a happy story, right? I mean, maybe you shouldn't date an alcoholic, but she loved him and she was really in it for the ups and the downs, which we love the ups and the downs anyway. So she got what she wanted, right? Which is chaos. And now she gets, like, she tamed the bad boy. So now, this is like every woman's, what she dreams of. And then what she can also do is get the I'm such a good woman clout points, where she can attribute all of his overcoming alcoholism to her, which is going to be great for her. All right. I believe it is a much better choice to have a child at a time when they can be raised better, just to have them on a ridiculous timeline that society throws at us and expects us to follow. The average person in their 20s is definitely not suited and ready to have kids because they have them anyway, because they're cute, or because they just got married and it's the next thing to do. 11, I had my son at 33, which in my area is considered older. I sometimes wish I had done things differently and had him earlier, or not at all. Some women aren't meant to be mothers. I have nothing in common with most of the other moms on his t-ball team because I'm 10 years older than most of them. It's hard to make friends. My friends who do have kids are either much older than my son or they live in another state. I wish I would have been able to have him in my 20s, but then I think I wouldn't have the son I have. I wouldn't have the patience that I have. I think about how exhausted I am when I still have work to do, house to clean, appointments to make, and running him to his stuff. It's so draining. Do you know what's so crazy? women in the past had kids in their 40s, in their late 30s, right? Like my grandma did. But do you know what? She had her 9th kid. Yeah. So, you know what's so funny? My grandma, she's dead now. She dead, like Jesse Lee Peterson says. Sorry, grandma, But I asked her, before she died, I said, is there anything are there any regrets you have in life? And you know what she told me? She said, I wish I had more children. And I'm like, Grandma, you had 9 kids. How many did you want? Oh, I was on birth control for a few years and I wish I had 12. 12? So that's the thing. It's funny because the women now are doing less than the women of the past did. Because my grandma had 9 kids, So, but they're exhausted from 1. I'm wondering, maybe they had the older kids just do all the work for them. That's the only workaround I've thought about. But by all accounts, it seems like they had harder lives. Okay, to be clear though, I love my son. I don't regret him. I don't regret him. I regret what I had given to him by having him later. Okay. RJ said, kids are a gamble. I did it the right way and had 3 kids in my 20s. Child 1 and 2 are severely autistic, and at 10 and 8, they do not talk and self-harm. 1 in 30 is terrible odds. Some people just take L's. You know what I mean? I mean, if you had them in your 20s, there's nothing you can do. You had 2 autistic kids? Dang. All right, Joel, there's no offense. I don't mean to call your kid an L, but I can't really walk that back, can I? I can't really be like, I said it. I'm not apologizing. You know what? I said it. I said what I said. Joel, there's never a good time to have kids. One makes sacrifices at any age. Deal with it and stop complaining, girls. Yeah, okay. Let me see. If you guys super chat on the normal webs, on the YouTube, you can do it too. W Grandma. Yeah, I mean, she just kept going. She just was like, pop, 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 pop. It was with the kids. So we have had kids, the feminists aren't wrong. We have had kids into the 40s. But remember, your body changes when you have kids in your 20s, right? So by the time in your 40s, am I making sense? You're more likely to get pregnant again than get pregnant for the first time at 40. That's the catch. That's always women are oh, my mom had kids at 42. Yes, so did mine. But she had her 6th kid or her 9th kid. Not your first kid with IVF, Diane. Okay, I did things the traditional way, waited until I was in a good job, stable marriage, and big enough house to raise a family. But I regret not having children earlier because I don't have any energy at almost 40 that I had in my 20s, from sleepless nights to running around in the ballpark. I'm exhausted, and that's rubbing on my child. It's the reason we have decided to only have 1 child. I'm sure I could physically manage another pregnancy and baby phase. We were planning on having 2, but I regret waiting. Waiting meant that my child will be an only child. 13, I wish I had taken more time to be in shape before getting pregnant. Do you know what? I'm so tired of women blaming getting fat. You're not fat because you had a kid. I've seen pictures of women from the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. You're fat because you ate too much. Okay, my mom ran a marathon 6 months pregnant. And my youngest sister is fine. I mean, she's thriving. She's a good kid. Okay, it's been so hard to break 36 years of habits. It's been way harder to get motivated to work out and lose the weight while also working out to keep up with the toddler. All my friends had kids younger. Rachel, 37. My partner and I had just started back in school. Wow, there's a lot of these. Okay, I'm going to do one more before we move on to the next. So let's see where we are. Actually, no, we can go two more. My partner had just started back in school after taking 8 years off. So we put off starting a family until they were done with their degree. Then we waited. We wanted to wait until we were more financially ready. When the time finally seemed right, I was diagnosed with PCOS. After a few rounds of mild fertility treatments failed, we made the decision to not move forward with more aggressive treatments. I wish someone would have told me when I was younger that there was not a right time to start trying. But more than that, I wish someone would have told me that it's okay to stop trying and that feels right too. Infertility is really hard, and finally being able to stop beating myself up over it, it was very freeing. Sometimes things don't end up the way that you would have always thought, but that does not always have to be a bad thing. 15, I didn't find the right partner until my 30s and then had problems getting pregnant, which led to us having kids at 38. At first, we enjoyed our financial stability and that we were past our partying years. We were able to be very attentive and present parents. Then my mom died and it devastated me to lose a parent in our 40s. Now I'm really afraid we won't live to see our grandchildren or really know my children when they're adults. I want to be an active grandparent, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen. I'm afraid of being old, frail grandma, or not being here at all. Taking care of my aging grandparents and also having very young children, it's tough. And I never thought I'd be in the position, and I don't want to burden my kids with that same situation. Anonymous. Okay, so next we have women on TikTok talking about their L's, as per usual. So here are women talking about wishing they had kids earlier.
Y'all, baby. What's going on, y'all? Baby. I love my booger nose kids to death. I would not trade my children for the world, right? But again, I would have had my children younger if I had known a little better, okay? And the sad thing about society and the world is, it's like, oh, they tell you, go to school, get your career. So as women, sometimes we put off having children in order to pursue that career. And then when we decide to have children, we ain't got no energy to run after those kids. Because toddlers, they are a special kind of something. They require, the amount of energy and attention a toddler requires is insane. So as a woman, it's like we have to think between career or children. And again, we put off the children.
Yeah, we put it off because we don't want to do it. Now, like this is what conservative commentators miss. Okay, they completely miss this. There's this idea that women have this innate nature to have children, raise them, and be mothers. I don't believe that's true. Now you think, Pearl, how could that be true? That cannot be true. Women are nurturing. Women are the givers of life. That's what I've heard my whole life, right? Well, if we're so nurturing, why have we aborted an eighth of the world population? Why is it that we fought for birth control to push off motherhood as long as humanly possible? No, answer these questions. It's like, okay, if you have a fat person and they're like, I want to get in good shape. And the trainer's like, eat less. And they're like, I don't want to do that. You're like, you don't really want to lose weight, right? You'd rather eat than, and I've been there, right? I used to be kind of chunky and I didn't want to give up my large caramel lattes. I'd have like 3 a day. They're so bad for you. I didn't want to give it up, And I was like, I wanted that more than being thin, I guess. So it's the same concept, right? Yet we abort more children each year than die. Yeah, I know. And if we look at like women that have kids, and did you know when a child is found in a dumpster or dead in the first year of life, the number one suspect is always the mother. It's never the father. So the most likely person to kill a kid is the mom. Now, I also cross-examined this with the infant mortality rates in the past. So if 1 out of 3 women have abortions now, and the infant mortality rate used to be 1 out of 3, I don't know. I can kind of put 2 and 2 together, right? Now, they may have fooled the guys in the past, but there were bones found in bathhouses in Greece, okay? Women have always killed kids. We're ruthless, okay? And we had to be ruthless, right? Because what happened was, in history, if okay, so if I'm married, right? So I'm happy. I'm like, I love my husband and my kids. And then someone else came in and killed my husband. And do you know who's getting killed next? My kids. And do you know who I have to fall in love with? That guy that killed my entire. That's what we had to deal with, ladies. Like, you think life is bad now. In the past, you had to fall in love. And you either had to fall in love or fake it real good. You want to know why we're two-faced? Yeah, because before in the past, if we didn't do that, do you know who was going to be killed next? Us. Do you know who? He just killed the husband and the kids. You don't think we're next? So, of course, now, women, it's like we like to be desired. Like, we like being the hot girl in the room. But if we really liked being kids, then why are we such terrible mothers? Like, if we really liked the kids, why do we keep using them as a pawn against the father? Women don't like being mothers. Like, I think they like controlling things, right? Like, they like to have the kid to control the guy. I think we like attention and being worshipped, right? So we want to post that we're good mothers, right? Like, that's important to us. We want to use the kid for clout, right? So we want to post the children and like put them, I think Ryan Stone calls it a fuck trophy for clout. Yeah, we love doing that. We like to say, wow, this is my kid. Other things, what else do we like? We like the attention from the baby shower, the attention from the wedding, the attention from the birth. How can you see if a girl likes a guy? You got to take all that away and see if she sticks around. But then you never really know till she gets what she wants. And I'll tell you what, and you guys do this too. Haven't you guys ever been dating a woman, right? You're dating a woman. You think you like her. You're like, this girl's amazing. She's awesome. And then you smash. You're like, fuck. Men, it's like they're blinded by their want to smash, right? Like, they just want to smash. So like, they'll think a girl is like a good person. They'll think she's a nice person. They'll think she's likable. But then, in hindsight, they'll be like, I just liked the sex. Okay. Now, we have the same thing, but after we have the kid. And this isn't my experience, right? Because I haven't had a kid. But they figured this out in the forums years ago, where women, they have the kid or the wedding, whatever the hell that woman wanted. Now she has to look in front of her and say, do I even like this guy? Unfortunately, what we've seen is two things. And these are the two uncomfortable truths nobody wants to talk about. I am the bad guy for talking about this. Women don't want to be mothers as much as we thought, and women don't like men. And it's not personal, guys. We don't like anybody. We don't like each other. We don't like ourselves. So it's not like it's a shocker we don't like you either, right? Like, we don't like ourselves. We don't like our kids. We don't like anything. Like, we are just like chaos, right? So, Pearl, there's no excuse for abortion. 100% of babies put up for adoption are snapped up by couples who want them. Now, I'll tell you what happens. So that's true. When you have a kid that's given up for adoption as a baby, it's pretty much you'll find a home. What happens is when a kid's given up for adoption by a crackhead, that's when nobody wants it, right? Because who wants a crack kid? At that point, the kid's messed. It's like, I've been on both sides of adoption where my parents gave up a kid and got a kid. And a lot of it's nature, okay? A lot of it, I'll tell you what. So I had a brother. When I was 22, I found out I had another brother. Long story. Parents got pregnant young. And at 22, they sat me down. They said, you had a brother. And I thought they were lying. And he was real. And so I met him when I was like 23, I think, the next year. And it was crazy. He was just like us, even though we'd never met him. Like, literally, we never met him until I was like 23. And I couldn't believe it. Like, he walked like us. I had the same major. I was an economics major in college. So was he. Like, it was like this. It was a million things. He was in the same industry. His parents never left their hometown. My family grew up traveling. He had like a sailboat company. Like, it was just really cool. And he was probably more similar than the teenagers that we adopted. Now, to be fair, they were teenagers, but like you could still say, we had some influence. And that's when I realized before then, because of how badly single mothers like F up their kids, you know what I mean? Like these crackheads, I mean, the kids will go to jail, da, 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 da. I always thought it was nature or nurture, right? Because the single mother home stats were so bad. But when I found out, when I met my brother, I was like, oh, this is nature too. So maybe the single mothers are single mothers because they just got some effed up genes. Maybe they're just born that way. I don't know. But my point is we're going back to this. I know I'm on a little tangent. Women don't want to be mothers. And we got to stop. Women want to be whores. Women don't want to be mothers. And women don't like their kids that much. And women don't like men that much. Because if you look at what we do as a group, because I know they always bring it back to me. But what about you, Pearl? Are you going to abort your kid? Look, I've never done that. I have no plans to do that, right? But I have to look like at what we do in groups, in masses, in order to come to like a conclusion about society. Like, for example, when I look at the like women that men have crushes on, they have big tits, big ass, and a symmetrical face, and they're like 22. So we can like the leads in like James Bond movies and all. Does that make sense? So we can come to a conclusion that men like young, hot women with big boobs and tits, right? But for some reason, we can't come to that same conclusion when women try to sleep with men at concerts and they throw them like when they're underage, throwing themselves at of-age adults, or like they sleep with celebrities, sending nudes, they're getting naked in public. Like, for some reason, we can't accept the fact that like female nature is kind of whore, right? Like that, like for society, like we can accept that men are dogs, but we can't accept that women are sluts. Like, I don't know what it is about society. One, we can fully be like, yeah, men are gonna, if they think they can get away with it, she'll never find out. They're just gonna do it, unfortunately. But yeah, so society, they will accept the unflattering truths about men easily, right? They'll say men are dogs, men are stubborn, I mean, the list goes on. Men are cheaters, da 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 da. I mean, even the abuse, men aren't even abusive. It's women that are abusive, but they'll say men are violent, which to me, I think that's just projection. I think women are the abusive, violent ones, but whatever, right? But when we're going to go to the women, we can't accept the whore nature, right? And we can't accept the hype, like the women are always going to try to do better if they can. We can't accept that nature. And we also can't accept the women like cloud is a drug. Men kind of do know this, but we can't say this publicly. So, all right, so let me see if anyone else wanted to read on the website. Remember, you get unlimited super chats on the website. You just go and put Pearl Read. $10 a month, all you want. Okay, kids are, wait. There's never a good time to have kids. One makes sacrifices at any age. Deal with it and stop complaining, girls. Pearl, we had ours at 30 and 34. We're 48 now. We realized we were way better parents by waiting till we were more mature and less selfish. Look, some people are happy they waited. Some aren't. It just depends. Never forget that the woman's body tends to dump toxins into the child's pregnancy by breastfeeding. Detox is a must at these times, unfortunately. There's no excuse for an abortion. 100% of our babies are put up for adoption. Okay, yeah. Oh, and I never wanted children. I got unintentionally pregnant and planned on having him, but unfortunately had a miscarriage, even though I didn't make it past my first trimester. As soon as I became pregnant, I changed. I was so attached to this life and immediately went into mom mode. All I cared about was preparing for and protecting my child. I share this only to say after my experience, I don't understand how anyone could choose to terminate. I was always pro-life, but just didn't want to have my own. That experience made me passionately pro-life. Doesn't matter. In the right situation, you'd kill a kid too. All women would. Look, it's and I hate saying this, but you don't know what your morals are until you're in a situation where you can do the wrong thing. Okay. Because, and I hate saying this, Anna, I am sure that guy was good enough to reproduce with if you kept the kid. But if it was the most loser guy you've ever slept with, and please don't give me the bullshit of I've never slept with a loser, I don't believe you. But I'm just being honest here. When most women and men in the right situation would do the wrong thing, right? Like, it's like the billionaire who starts cheating on his wife. Well, he always wanted to cheat, but now he just gets the choice. Or, the guy who gets rich and starts doing drugs and partying. He always wanted to do it. He just gets the choice now. So Anna says, F you. That was so unnecessary. Well, then get out of the chat. It's like women. I mean, what, you're going to tone police me on my show? Okay, see ya. All right, Ben, you should review Matthew Hussey's new video, finally forced to address the male struggle. Now it's truly affecting women. Would love your thoughts.
Children.
All right, I'm going to continue.
Some of us, we put off children till later on. And shout out to the women who don't want kids. Yeah, because some women don't want children. So sometimes we hear shaming women, oh, you ain't got kids. They don't want none. And
they don't. And that's I had this thought too. I thought in the beginning, I thought that can't be right. That can't be right. But then I got to know women more and I was like, that is right. Pearl Reed, this happened to me so much overseas. They don't have the option to abort their children. Yeah. Every woman probably would in the worst situation. I'm sure some women have morals, but that guy in the Bible said he met 1,000 women and he never met one good one. So if this, I think it was Paul or something. So if the guy in the Bible says this, who am I to think that like I am better or other women are better, right? It just is what it is.
And good for you, okay? But all I'm saying is, if I could go back 37 with a 3-year-old.
Okay, you actually had women supporting you, but now you're just a rage beard. I'll cancel your membership. I don't care, Anna. I'll cancel it for you. Do you know what? This is like women. They can't take jokes. Like this is, oh my God. Not all. But they just nag. It's like they just get in my chat and nag. And nag and nag and nag. All right, so.
I wouldn't do it. It's ghetto. I won't do it. It is ghetto to be 37 with a toddler. I won't.
All right, so Women explains why she had kids.
I was asked, when did I have kids and why did I choose to have them at that time and kind of what was it like? I grew up in a household that wasn't necessarily happy. Our parents did their very best. They tried to provide their very best for us, but they had a really difficult relationship. And it did not make me keen on getting married and having kids. I was actually much more desperate to have something of my own because I watched my mom struggling, not being able to leave, even though he was cheating. That kind of thing always stuck to me. Like I was 7 years apart from my sister, so we weren't close. We weren't good friends. We didn't really get along. I always longed for a family to sit around a dinner table, to talk like you see in the movies. I wanted to be very settled when I had kids. So when I met John and we finally got married, I was already like 34 and we wanted to travel. We wanted to buy a house. We wanted to be really settled. And for some reason, I really wasn't scared about it. I wasn't nervous that I wouldn't get pregnant. It wasn't something that I was, again, desperate for. I actually had kids at 38 and 40. I was very lucky. They were both healthy. I was very grateful. We knew 2 was probably all we could handle. We always wanted a huge family. The reality of having a baby, nobody tells you the truth. So when you finally have kids, you realize, oh, okay, that's a lot harder than I thought it was. And we had been married for at least 4 years. So
You know what's so funny? Women will always say this was so much harder than I thought. And men will say this is easier than I thought. Isn't that hilarious? The men will be like, this is like the easiest. This is what you guys have been doing the whole time. You should get a job. And the women will say it's the hardest thing you could ever do. Look.
So I kind of knew what I was dealing with. We were able to invest in a home, so we were a little bit more stable and not stressed out all the time about money. I was old enough and mature enough to not feel like I was missing out on anything. I was like kind of ready to be able to be home, but more okay with making that sacrifice.
Yeah. Women had kids in her late 30s. We got another one.
So I had my first child when I was 37, and then my second when I was 39. Waited. Not on purpose, but did the corporate shit, okay? And what no one tells you about waiting later to have kids is that you might be menopausal. Sorry, lost some people there. You might become menopausal when your kid is going through puberty. Say what? It's for reference, it's not happening yet, but I'm anticipating some bullshit's going to be thrown down in the next few years. Also, no one tells you that your parents, when you have little toddlers, little kids who are in elementary school, no one tells you that this is when your parents start acting cray-cray. When your parents start acting stupid and you're like, what are we doing here? I have these guys to worry about, and now you're making me, am I worrying about you as well? Or, and this is on a sadder note, I have a lot of friends who have little kids who are also going through some shit with their parents aging. So, wowza. Have kids, have kids when you're older. You're more mature, you're more ready, you've done life. However, and then play this video. However, other things to think about, roll the fucking beautiful bean footage.
Yeah, so here you go. Now you got another woman. And this is the thing. We'll always rationalize our bad behavior. Always rationalize it. Woman talks about how horrible it was getting pregnant when she was older. The other thing about women that I can always take is that when women say that something is horrible, I can always count that it's not that horrible. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they say this is like the worst thing ever, like what, Diane? Did they get your order wrong at the restaurant? Now in the chat, they're arguing in this chat. See, if you guys want the drama, go to theaudacitynetwork.com. Said Pearl wasn't being malicious. Well, you actually had a woman supporting you, but you're just a rage bait. Do you know what's so funny? Women support you. This is why I'm like, whenever I let women into the chat, I just know it's a matter of time before they crash out. I'll tell you this is just a matter of time because they want to support you, but they only want to support you in the way that they want, right? So it's like, I support what you're doing, but only when you say the words that I want. well, then I guess go to the other female. There's 10 other female influencers that'll talk in the PG tone you're looking for. Don't worry, Anna. Okay, so women talks about how horrible. For the record, it was my boyfriend, now husband, that it happened with. So you just proved my point. Oh my God, you just proved my point. I told this lady earlier, I said, you didn't have bad genes. The guy that you got pregnant by, like if she got pregnant by a loser, then it would have been a different situation. This is a guy that she stayed with. It's like she backs up my point. So crazy. Women talk about how horrible it was getting pregnant when she was older.
Hi, mommies. Good morning. It's time to slather on the makeup. So this is actually, it's like a French cream. It's more of, it's not so much.
OMG, she proved Pearl corrupt. I know.
God, I hate talking about makeup. It's not so much a concealer as it is a fucking sunblock. Okay, to answer this person's question, yeah, dude, I'm old as shit. I had my first kid when I was 38, my second kid at 42. Horrible to do physically. If I had a parallel.
Pearl, was a grandfather at 50 and had a lot of energy to spend and some very good times and road trips with my oldest grandchild. Think about the grandparents when you wait until 40 to have kids.
Parallel universe where I had like a really cool supportive family and a mom. Dude, I would have had babies at like 18.
18, because physically your body is meant to do that at 18 years old. Like when I was 18, I could like drink a pack of Zima and eat fucking cheeseburgers and go to bed and not gain a pound. And your body is just tight. Like you're going to snap back. Now, I'm not advocating teen pregnancy.
I was actually thinking about this the other day, teen pregnancy. Is it the worst thing in the world? Because, you could be done with the whole kids part of your life by the time you're 40. I know a couple people that did that, right? And they're 40, right? They had their first kid. It was like 15 or 16. I mean, you're like done,
Pregnancy, or am I? But if you have a cool mom that can raise the kid for you when you're, 18, like, why not? And then you get your life back at 36 when that kid is themselves 18. See that math? Now, that being said, having kids older is kind of the jam. If you want to have a career, if you want to do stuff before you have children, I highly recommend that. Because then you have the resources to afford help, which I need because I don't have relatives. And you're also more emotionally stable. And if you have the energy and the health, have babies later. It's all good. And this person asking, don't worry. 38 is very young.
Yeah, that's a lie. So it's not looking too good. It could work out for you, but there's going to be a lot of people it doesn't work out for. Yeah. Do you remember Old Maid used to be like 25? They used to think you were done. Naski nada.
It's like I said, if you've got the energy and the health, fucking go for it. But when I got married, I was 32 years old, and Tom and I were poor. So I didn't want to bring children into the world until we could, afford it. 38 is not that old, dude. 38 is only old in like the Midwest, but on the coasts, that's when bitches start having babies. So pump that kid out, bro. Do what you got.
That's true. It is a later time frame when you're in like New York and those places.
I was actually
Here's another cope.
45 when my daughter was born, not 40. I want to address some of the common criticisms that older moms sometimes get. First of all, women having babies in their 40s isn't a new thing. Childbearing years span decades, so why this is shocking to...
Okay, it's not a new thing, but like my grandma, I think she started at 16 and stopped at like 43. It's not a new thing, but they start earlier, right? They pop the first one out young.
To some people is beyond me. I know so many older moms, both now and also when I was...
I know, this is the future, right? They're not completely wrong. Women are going to keep pushing that shit off. They're going to keep trying to use their youth and beauty on themselves and spend as little as possible on their husband and their families. They're going to keep pushing it off, okay? So she's not wrong per se, okay? But it's probably not a great thing, but it is what it is.
Growing up. One of the most common criticisms that I see online is that it's not fair to have children in your 40s because those children won't have as much time with you as they would if you had them when you were younger. The truth is, nobody knows how much time they have, but let's say for the sake of the argument that we all get the same number of years and we all expire on the same exact day. Does that mean that we owe it to the next generation to give birth to them as young as possible? Not everyone is ready or willing to have a baby in their teens or 20s. Even if you do feel ready, sometimes finding the right partner can take some time, and some people like to become financially stable or reach other goals.
So this is the thing. When women are unsure about a decision, they rationalize it. They have to explain it. When you're sure you're making the right decision, do you guys have to explain it? No.
First, it's also really common for people to experience infertility, or in my case, secondary infertility. I planned on having our last child in my 30s, but when I was in my 30s, I had miscarriages. The most carefully made plans can be completely out of our control. And
that's completely in your control. Most people don't have miscarriages in their 20s. That's like the result of your actions. And it's not saying it's wrong to make that choice, but you got to account like that was your choice.
It's
right?
mind-boggling to me that anyone could think a child has more or less right to exist based on the age of her mother. Another common concern is the increased risk of chromosomal abnormalities with advancing maternal age. The numbers vary a little bit according...
No, so she's gonna rationalize that like you won't have autistic kids the older you wait, but they're just going to abort the autistic ones anyway. So she's kind of right in a way, because women are going to get those testings done. And if it's not what they want, they'll just, sorry, fellas. It's not your choice, it's theirs. Women are the ultimate eugenicists.
To the source, but a recent one that I read said that at age 30, a pregnant woman has a 0.1% chance of a baby with Down syndrome, and then by age 40, it increases to 1%. By the time I conceived my daughter at age 44, I had about a 2.5% chance of having a baby with Down syndrome. Conversely, I had a greater than 97% chance of having a baby with typical chromosomes who was perfectly healthy. More than half of people with Down syndrome were born to young moms, under 35. Lastly, the idea that older moms have less energy. I've had babies both in my 20s and in my 40s, and this hasn't been true for me. And I really believe that while there are genetic factors that are out of our control, our overall fitness and lifestyle choices have more to do with our mental and physical health than our age does. Those are my thoughts, but I'm happy to continue the conversation in the comments.
Yeah, this is her and her husband.
When you're spending every day on your own, and here it goes.
Okay, wait, they've been together since high school. Why did they wait so long? She was hot, right? She was hot back in the day. She was a dime. Yeah, okay. All right, well, that's all I got today. I guess I also pissed off a woman in the chat. I can't say I'm shocked. It is what it is. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. What age did you guys have kids? And are you happy with that you had them at that age? Top comments I'm going to like, pin, and reply to, so I'll make sure to do that. Go to theaudacitynetwork.com, and you do get unlimited chats on the website. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.